everybody to this tutorial. Today I will introduce you to the packet manager, the default packet manager of Red Hat. Now this is the exact same packet manager that CentOS uses, so don't worry about it. The commands are the same. Anyway, the packet manager which Red Hat uses that you can use via command line, there is one for graphical user interface, but I am going to probably skip that one during the course of this tutorial, as the priority is on the terminal and the Red Hat certification will primarily focus on the terminal and will require you to be able to do this via the command line. Anyway, the command that you use to install and search for any package from the repositories is yum. So yum is the default packet manager used for this purpose. Now, before I get into all the technical details and explain what yum does and how it works and what sort of arguments and parameters can you pass to it and how you can actually install stuff on Linux, let me just go ahead and first explain what a packet manager is. So a packet manager in pretty much any Linux distribution is basically a piece of software, a piece of code, which enables you to pull from a remote location, namely from the repositories, any piece of code that is within those repositories. And usually, like 90% of the cases, you have pretty much everything that you need within the repository, so you needn't actually go on the net and search and download software from unsecured sources. This is one of the main reasons why Linux is superior to any other operating system, primarily because you can actually pull from the maintained repositories where people actually work on those repositories and make sure that all of their content is safe and secure, so that you don't end up downloading I don't know, a Trojan or a virus or something of a kind. And I do believe that I have mentioned this in some of my previous tutorials. This has been running since the 90s or something of a kind. Only recently have Windows and Mac introduced their own methods of this, their own packet managers, where you can actually go on the net and actually pick things, where you can not on the net, sorry, where you can actually go hook up to a place, to a store of a sort, and pick things up. But unlike Windows and Mac, where you actually have to pay for these things. Okay, granted, some things are free, but most aren't. Using the repositories in Linux, you will find that everything is free. All the software from the default repositories is free of charge, as far as I know. I have never encountered anything that I needed to pay for, and I have been using Linux now for a long line of years, which is fantastic. So once again, the packet manager enables you to install any piece of software that is within the repositories which are listed in your system. It is also possible to add new repositories to your system without bigger difficulty. You just have to edit the file, but please be aware that adding any new repositories, you are basically authorizing that repository to forward you the content. So whatever you install, if you install it from that repository that you know little or nothing about, basically can be anything. That is why I would strongly advise to use only official repositories and not actually add anything. Perhaps you can add on your desktop machines RPM Fusion, which is very nice for some additional packets for multimedia and stuff of a kind, but generally you do not do this. You just use the official repositories, and from there you perform the installation. Now, of course, like with any other operating system, you are actually able to go onto the net, download a software for Red Hat or for CentOS, and install it no problems, as long as it is compatible with Linux, and to be more precise, as long as it is compatible with Red Hat distribution of Linux, because CentOS is of course based on Red Hat, Fedora is based on Red Hat, Red Hat is Red Hat, and you also have like Debian, which is basically Ubuntu is based on Debian, Mint is based on Debian, and so on and so forth. And you will see that there are two different extensions. So .rpm and .deb. Pretty much the packets that concern you are .rpm. There you go. There are softwares out there which do the conversion from .deb to .rpm and vice versa. However, there is no guarantee that it will work, so it is not generally recommended. Rather instead find the original or the substitute program which has been ported or has an RPM extension or something of a kind. Anyway, there are other methods of installing software, of course. They don't need to necessarily be RPM packages. It can be any code that you can compile and run that is compatible with Red Hat. Although that is not recommended due to security reasons. The best way, the default way, the most secure way is to download all software that you need from the official repositories of Linux, or should I say from the official repositories of Red Hat, where you can find safe and secure software and you can download it with great ease and you can search through those repositories with great ease. Now, that being said, let me just go ahead and delete this, and now I'm going to use Yum to perform a search. So I can type in, well, before I actually use it for search, let's just go over to help menu. Okay, it's immediately it's loading up. So this one has quite a comprehensive amount of commands that you can pass to it, and we will be using Yum throughout this course, as we will need to install additional software as well. But this is one of the most important softwares that you can think of. This is one of the most important functionalities of your system, the ability to install other software onto it from a remote source at a relatively fast pace, at a relatively good speed that depends really on your bandwidth and your processing power, but I haven't really encountered any problems with it ever. People use it. It's one of the best things ever invented. Anyway, I once again would strongly recommend that you go ahead and read through these things here in the help menu. You don't have to go through the entire list of the man pages, but I would definitely advise you to familiarize yourself with the arguments here. Now, of course, as with all the other commands, we will not be using every single argument that is here. Rather, instead, we will be using the ones that are most used, that are of greatest help and use to you, and the ones that you will absolutely need. If you wish to learn more about them, or if you have a question about a particular argument or something of a kind, or a particular section of a command in the man pages or something of a kind, please do not hesitate to pose any questions in the discussions on Udemy. I will be more than happy to answer them. It is with no small amount of personal satisfaction that I perform this task, as it does bring me, uh, it satisfies me to actually be able to solve problems, to help people out, and to basically spread the knowledge, so to say. Anyway, the arguments that you will use is verbose, as before, this -y, because sometimes during the installation process you are prompted with questions, and well, most of the time you're prompted with questions actually, but most of the time those questions are standardized. Like you type in, you request an you issue the command to install a particular software, and then Yum begins the process. It updates the repositories, it finds whatever it is that you're looking for, and then it begins the installation procedure. But before it begins the installation procedure, upon finding what you have wanted it to install, it actually gives you the package. I do believe that it gives you the dependencies as well, and then it asks you, do you want this to be installed? It will take this much space on your hard drive, so please verify. And you can, for example, in addition, you can have one-liners. Those are the commands that do a great deal of things, just one line, and you can add -y argument to your Yum installation command, and it will answer all questions in advance with yes for you, which can be a useful thing in a vast amount of cases. Anyway, next time is not next time, sorry. The next thing that we're going to do is Well, you can, if you have some errors, this is generally not recommended. You can say T-D for tolerant. This can cause so many problems. I definitely wouldn't recommend using this until you become an expert, so to say. Quiet operation is basically the opposite of verbose. So that can be very nice if you don't really care. So just send it to quiet, or if you have installed the software a lot of times, the same software, and if you don't want to check the installation procedure out for the 100th time, feel free to pass the -q. Now these things tend to happen. Skip broken. Sometimes a package won't install because it has deemed that some packages are broken, or some libraries or something of a kind. Yeah, you can skip them, and I don't know about you, but I have done this many times, and this thing actually tends to work. I don't know, it reports an error somewhere, something is wrong, these things happen, and then you can actually say, okay, well, you know what, I want you to skip broken for now, and let's see if it's gonna work. Sometimes it's gonna work, sometimes it won't. That's the that's the way the cookie crumbles, so to say. You can also say download only, do not update, just download, which is, I don't know, I suppose I don't really see a reason why you would do this unless you were in a unless you were in a rush or something of a kind. But it has its uses, although it is not recommended. Anyway, do we have anything else here that I wanted to talk about or that I wanted to include here? I do not believe so. Okay, so yep, there we go. I knew I was missing something. So list of commands. These are the list of commands that you can pass to Yum, so not arguments, but rather instead commands that you can pass to Yum that will, what will actually Yum do, and then you also pass the arguments to say how will Yum behave while performing a certain operation. Anyway, you got clean, which is very nice. It removes any cached data. That cached data sometimes can pose problems, so you can just remove it. Dep list, you can list package dependencies. So I don't know, you have a package somewhere and you want to install it, and you have some problems with it after installation or during installation or something of a kind. So you can just say, okay, give me a list of dependencies, and then you can use locate to find them. If you have them, great, then it's something else. If you don't have them, well, even better, just go ahead and install them, and you have solved yourself a problem. Now, Linux possesses the ability to upgrade and downgrade individual packages. So you can actually downgrade individual packages. And believe it or not, people actually use this primarily because perhaps certain things don't work with the newer versions, or not. I misexpressed myself there. Some things from the newer versions of software do not play well with some other software that you have there. So I don't know, somewhere in the forums somebody suggests that you should downgrade it or something of a kind. That's a reported bug, and you then downgrade it. Although it can be a security risk if it's not a network application or something of a kind, perhaps it's worth a while. For example, I couldn't connect to a router due to my SSH protocol not being compatible with it because the one on the router was ancient. So I just downgraded the package and I managed to connect, even though it was less secure. Okay, it was a local network and the job needed to get done. So we just formed a direct connection with a cable, and there you go. No problems. That's also one of the solution. Just an example of one problem there. I know somebody's gonna say, well, you could have used a console port or something of a kind, but didn't have the cable at the time and needed a quick solution. So a downgrade of the SSH was one of those solutions. By the way, SSH is basically a way of connecting remotely to somewhere that has an equivalent support of the SSH protocol, where all traffic between the two of you, between the 2 points, is encrypted, which is very nice because anybody else listening on the network will not be able to figure out what you are talking about. Anyway, let's just go ahead and go down a little bit. So this is one of the most important commands that you will be able to pass to yum. It is install. This is the one that you will use quite frequently. You will use it to install packages. Well, you can either install one or more. You can you can tell yum to practically install an infinite amount of packages at a time, and it's just going to go one by one by one by one, and it's going to install them. And yum is great because it gives you so much information about the package that you are installing. It's not just a progression bar, or God forbid, it's not the circle in the windows. That's just awful. I know that people, okay, in the sense of design, the circle in Windows can be great, but it doesn't really tell you anything. It might as well be bugged. You know, it doesn't tell you the estimated time to completion, doesn't really tell you what it is doing in the background or anything like that, but shortly you will see how Yum pretty much tells you every single little thing that it does in the background, so you are aware. Okay, granted, for an average user it's not really important, but for you as a system administrator, it is of extreme importance to know what is going on in the background, as it is uh, as is appropriate for you. So it helps you troubleshoot problems, it helps you learn more, it helps you figure out what is going on, and therefore you have greater power over the system. The more you know, the more power you have, so to say. You also have info. It displays details about a package or a group of packages. So you can learn a bit more through Yum about a package from the repositories, which is very nice to see if it actually suits your purpose. Now list actually lists a package or a group of packages, which is very nice, practically equivalent to search, but list does everything, so perhaps not the best of things. I generally don't use list, I use search. It should be here somewhere. There we go. Search package details for the given string. And now you see this is the difference. In list, you down here in the search, you can actually just pass any string that you want, and if Yum actually manages to find any matches in the repositories, it's going to print those things out to you. It doesn't matter whether that match is in the package name or in the description of the package or something like that. If it finds that in the line, it's going to print it out to you, so you will be able to see all packages containing such strings. A very nice thing indeed. So you can also run interactive Yum shells, but for the time being that is beyond our capabilities. Uh, Down here you have the update, very important, and below you have upgrades. It upgrades packages, taking obsolete into account. Very nice as well. You can display a version, and down we go into arguments. Anyway, these are some of the simplest things, and also I'm so sorry I have forgotten this. It's repo list. It shows you a list of repositories. So let's just try that one first. Let's go ahead and clear the screen. Type in yum space uh, repo list, and you will notice that sometimes I know it seems like it's stuck here, but it's not. It's actually working on something. So let's go ahead and deny it that privilege and type in here space dash C. Oops. There you go. The C will, okay, there we go. The C will prevent it from running auto updates or anything of a kind. It will basically say just give me what I need, don't do anything else. That's the simplest of explanations I can give to you. So there is the repo ID, which is basically here, and we got the repo name, which is here, status repo list, and so on and so forth. So here you can actually see which repos do you have on your computer. Aside from this, you can manually perform these checkups as well, and all of this we will, like the installation, the search, the manual checkups of the repositories, we will do all of this in the follow-up tutorials. I will cut the tutorial here, and I sincerely hope to see you in my next video.